Hello and welcome to the War Table. I'm Zach.
I'm Bass.
And today we're going to be talking about Heavy Hitters. Heavy Hitters has very recently released and I want to see how it affects our decks because I myself am a Guardian main. I play Bravo and I have since pretty much the very start.
I myself am a Rhinar main. I've been playing Brute since I've started playing really. Started with Oldhim, so I'm still interested in some of the Guardian stuff, but Oldhim is very banned.
But Heavy Hitters obviously features Rhinar, doesn't feature Bravo, which makes sense. And I want to go through, will Heavy Hitters help our decks? How will it help our decks? And should you be opening Heavy Hitters? If you play someone like a Bravo or a Yoji, should you be opening some Heavy Hitters or should you just leave this set alone?
If you're playing someone like Rhinar or KO, should you be opening this set? Yes.
Going to be going through, talking about the changes that have been made. We did one Blitz match before the changes and one Blitz match after. We'll go through, show off the changes we've made, talk about what effect it had, and tell you if you should open the set. So we had our first Blitz game and our decks were pretty standard for Heavy Hitters beforehand. Obviously, I was throwing out lots of pitch, dominate, and crush effects, so I was a very much standard Bravo, though admittedly more of a control Bravo and a defensive Bravo. And then Bass's Rhinar, which had its standard random discards, Blood Rush Bellow of course, as well as a little bit of Go Again and stuff like that, running things like Skull Crushers, and pretty much what you would expect from each of those heroes pre-Heavy Hitters, from a more controlling and defensive Bravo and a pretty aggro Rhinar. And with that, let's get into the changes that we made during Heavy Hitters. So, in this box is my Bravo deck. My Cold Foil Bravo, I got at a Farewell to Wraith event. I've been playing Bravo since pretty much I started. Obviously, he's a Guardian, and so Heavy Hitters, including Guardian stuff, should be great for me surely, right? Honestly, not really. This Bravo is classic constructed, of course, and there's a pretty big difference between Bravo and someone like Victor or Betsy from the new set. If we look at Starstruck, for example, obviously high damage, high cost, set 10 damage, 7 cost, but it's also got Crush. When any of these cards deal 4 more damage to a hero, each card has a different effect, but some of these more expensive ones can be crippling. And depending on the hero you verse, depending on how crippling it'll be, which has created a problem for Bravo with Heavy Hitters. Bravo can give almost any attack dominate, as long as the cost is right, which works really well into Crush. 7 damage, dominate, let's say they're out of equipment, that's almost, unless they've got a defense reaction in Arsenal or something, that's a pretty safe 3 damage being blocked, 4 going through, Crush effect applies, and or you force their equipment out. But a lot of the new attacks, like the Wager attacks, they don't have those Crush effects, and the damage output isn't quite as high as some of these cards. Plus, it doesn't play into the dominate well either, because even if damage is going through, you're putting through almost no pressure. They just take it and keep going. And so into my Bravo, I have only put a few cards in. I put in a rare for Reinforce the Line. Instant target defending action gets a +4. I put that in for a few reasons, but honestly, that's kind of a placeholder because I think I'm just going to switch it in for Sink Below. You shouldn't really be using it. There's no benefit for it to being instant over something like Sink Below being a reaction. I did put in a new Majestic being Trounce. As Bravo has such high damage things, the double clash of this could be quite good because the Might and the Vigor token mostly could be quite helpful. Gold is nice to have but not needed. With the caveat to that being, Bravo runs a lot of auras. Sometimes you'll spend a turn setting up or have a little bit of setup for the next turn to help things like Crush effects go through and just overall damage boosting. Victor and Betsy have some of these but not nearly to the same degree, especially on Victor, and so Trounce, again, honestly I think it's not going to stay around long. I've tried it in a few armories, and in one of the armories I was versing a warrior, and so almost no attack actions. A Guardian should have been fine at Clash. I tied both of them because of auras, and so far 2 cards that I've put into my deck that aren't going to stick around long because there's just better alternatives for Bravo specifically. Yes, these cards are really good on someone like Victor or Betsy, but that's what I'm saying. Bravo, while he will slightly benefit from some of these, not to the degree that the new Guardians will. There is one Majestic here that I am feeling quite good about actually though, which is the Brute/Guardian Talk a Big Game. 0 cost and a blue, so worst case scenario, it's pitch fodder and a 3 block. Choose a number. The next time you deal that much damage or more to a hero, this turn create that many Might tokens. If I set that at the same level as Crush, it either 1 gives more incentive to force out their equipment, or 2 is a pretty safe bet again, if I follow that with Dominate, that it's going to get through. And so honestly, that's one of the only cards in this new set, Heavy Hitters, for Bravo specifically, that I'm feeling good about. I've actually got 2 Trounces in here. I might keep one in, but not both. Definitely not both. The only other card I put in is a common, being Money Where Your Mouth Is, and not even for the wager, more for the cheap damage boost that isn't an aura. Most of my damage boosts in Bravo are auras, so I've got to wait a turn for it to pop. Money Where Your Mouth is nice that it's the next attack in this turn, but even then that's a generic, not even a guardian attack. And so these two cards are definitely going to stay in my Bravo and are nice for Bravo. And I want to keep in mind that mine's not an aggro Bravo, mine's a very much a control Bravo, but these three cards, I've tried to put them in, but honestly I don't think they're going to last in my deck very long. There are a lot of new nice guardian cards I'd like to clarify. Clash is a great new feature, Wager is a great new feature, especially Wager on Betsy. I'm building a Betsy at the moment, and that's going to be really interesting, especially with Good Time Chappelle, because it doesn't break, which has the ability of a legendary, let's be real. A lot of new good Guardian features and abilities that'll help Guardian, just unless you're building around it, not Bravo. You could probably build around these new cards. You could probably build a Clash Bravo or a Wager Bravo. But if you're going to do that, you either play Victor with Clash or Betsy with Wager. Bravo has his Crush abilities, and he already was a pretty good deck before this new set. He doesn't need the extra cards particularly. And so overall, as really excited as I was for this set, actually, there's almost nothing for Bravo. I'm okay with that, honestly, though. I don't think he needs it. And so, for my Bravo, there are nice cards in there, but most of the cards in there don't have Crush or anything I want or need. Do you recommend any cards, though, that I should put into my control Bravo?
So after our last game of Flesh and Blood, Heavy Hitters has come out. So you've seen the Reinhard deck before Heavy Hitters. This is current, the Reinhard deck. This is Blitz format. I know Zach showed his constructed format because he's a little bit silly. But in current state, my Reinhard has not been torn apart by any means, but has been altered quite a bit. I've completely taken out all forms of non-blockers from my deck, and some people will think that that's a little bit silly. But that's because non-blockers in this deck have gotten me killed in too many games to be warranted ever again. Dear God, I hate it. But with Heavy Hitters, there has been the addition of a lot more pitch for this deck. And I've actually gone for a less aggro route for Reinhard with this. I've replaced Pulping with Lead with Speed for a more consistent go against source. I have replaced all forms of Predatory Assault with Send Packing, which is a huge card in basically every format there is. Getting rid of an arsenal, whether it be for a ranger, for a guardian, for basically anyone, and nullifying either a defense reaction or forcing them to block out a lot more to keep a strong attack is a lot more than you'd realize. Pound Town is just another yellow 6, really. It's kind of just taken the spot of any red 6s in my deck that I saw as unneeded. Salt and Battery, however, has been a lifesaver in many games. It's consistent agility tokens and Intimidate going for at least 6 damage, and with some of the other additions to this deck, that often is a bit more. Agile Windup is either pitch or it is the discard, because the agility token is a necessity basically every instance that you can get it. Rawhide Rumble is just taking the place of Pack Hunt, because there is times where I don't want to intimidate at all. I just want to present some end game damage to try and force cards out of hand to then try and get a closing attack, or I want the 2 intimidates to try and ensure damage. Runner is a very fun card, I think. It has been very fun to play with, been very fun to actually utilize fully. You turn around, you discard the Agile Windup, and then the next turn you get another agility in after Runner has go again. And one of my favorite cards, which has replaced Alpha Rampage, Show No Mercy, has been really fun because constantly removing someone's cards from hand and then forcing them to block out extra or eat a bit more is really fun and kind of funny to watch people sit there and just cringe for a solid 5 minutes going on and over what they need to block with, what they shouldn't block with. Fun fact, Barraging Beatdown and a Show No Mercy on just a person's 4-card hand and no arsenal is a guaranteed damage boost. Now, obviously, I think I may have said in the earlier portions of this video, I didn't like how Apex Bonebreaker looked. I'm going to retract that statement pretty heartily now, because this has become a necessity for so many games. Ranger, Guardian, a lot of ninja games where they're presenting just more cards than you have in hand to block with. This has been huge. Getting the Might token is obviously a massive upside, but the block value alone makes it worth it in the end, I think. A 2 block on any brute equipment is always something that you really like, but it being a temper instead of a blade break like Scowling Fleshbag was, makes it even better. This is hugely rewarding to how an aggro brute wants to block as well. You want to block with 1 card from hand and an equipment sometimes, so this is rewarding, giving you that Might token to maybe close out a game at the end. Now obviously the Reinhard deck hasn't gotten completely torn apart. I do still have the staples like Blood Rush Bellow, Massacre, things like that. But there has been a lot of changes all in all. Like I said, all the non-blocking cards like Wild Ride and Pulping are gone. The one thing I am thinking that heavy hitters could have done for Brute is just give them some more on-hit options. I understand Wager has been added to the game for everyone, effectively. Wage Gold, things like that, they exist. But I just think that there could have been a lot more that could have way better benefited Brute, because Wage Agility and Wage Might just aren't worth it at times. It's a 3 cost for a yellow, and it only blocks for 2. I know I've put in a couple of 2 blocks with stuff like Lead for Speed and Agile Wind-Up, but I just think that they're way more worth it. They're guaranteed agility as compared to a try and force cards out of hand. And maybe if you've gotten the Might token off beforehand to make it a 7, force that breakpoint, maybe, but it just does not feel worth it. But I think that this set has opened up a few more viable doors for Brute. I can see Brute making its comeback in the meta with things like Apex Bonebreaker, things like Knucklehead for KO. Knucklehead for KO, yeah. Can be really fun, very funny cards to play out. Rolling a 6 on Knucklehead is huge. The only problem is you need to get that go again. But all in all, I think that Reiner has had some massive benefits as opposed to Zach's Bravo, which I think has had a total of maybe 3-4 cards added to it at most, off the top of my head. Things like Trounce, I think there was one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. There is some cards that we're still chasing from heavy hitters. I've opened quite a lot of boxes. I've opened, as of recording this, 9. Within the coming week it'll go up to 11. I'm getting another 2 boxes out of a little deal I've made with someone important. But all in all, I think heavy hitters has been absolutely massive for Reiner. But I think that, yeah, Zach has made the right call on Bravo just not being the prime one that gets everything out of heavy hitters. I think that's a good thing though. Bravo has always been in the meta. There's never been really an instance where Bravo hasn't been the meta, even if you take his variations. Starvo, pardon? I think that there's been plenty of instances where Bravo's just been a little bit too strong. I think that he's gotten spoilt in some cases, Dusk Till Dawn being a huge one. Starstruck is just disgusting. But I think this was a set that kind of did give Brute what it needed. But at the same time, I feel like Brute could have gotten a little bit more. I feel like, now this is going to be controversial, but another blue 6 is what we need, Legend Stories. Please give me another blue 6. That's all I want. I know KO fixes the problem, but I want another blue 6. That's all I want. I'll pay money for it. That's it, please. Anyway, that aside, I think that heavy hitters has been nice. I think that it's been very fun to open. I think that it's a very unique set. I've been really enjoying it. Yeah, it's kind of it. Reiner has gotten some nice little upgrades, some nice little changes and adaptations. But I think there is still more room to grow for Brute as a whole. I think that Reiner does still have some room to expand upon as well. But hey, it's only been a week or 2 since heavy hitters has released. What, today's date is the 14th. It's only been not even 2 weeks since heavy hitters has come out, so who knows what people will come up with. Maybe it'll be Mechanologists coming up again with Evo Magneto. Maybe it'll be Wizards with, I think, Aether Arc was the new one. Maybe it'll be Arachne will finally have his time to shine with Coercive Tendency and Graven Call. We just don't know yet, but hey, there's only time to find out. We've got all this time in the world. I just hope that Reiner doesn't get evaporated from the Blitz meta too quickly, because he's got a lot of points already and he's probably going to get up there quicker now. But okay, Sarah. Anyway, that's my bit of this video.
We played 2 matches after the heavy hitters changes, and for my matches, honestly, apart from Trounce, I ended up pitching almost everything from heavy hitters, from Money Where Your Mouth Is to Talk a Big Game to even Trounce at one point. But at least Bass got good use out of it, as he got an Apex Bonebreaker off at one point. But admittedly, our first game went by pretty quick, as it was ended in about 5 turns with me having an astounding victory in that match. Going into the second match, it was a lot closer, and things like Runner was actually being able to be used straight off the bat, with an agility into Runner, creating the new agility, which was a very effective tactic, all things considered. I then got to Trounce, and this is why I'm planning to take it out. Even though I have a lot of high damage cards in my deck, I pulled an Aura, which means I just get nothing and gives the opponent the chance. While luckily, I won the second one, which meant that no one got anything. It gives the opponent the chance to get a Vigor, a Might, and a Gold as well. And for the amount of auras I have, it's not worth it. But Show No Fear was pulled off. Sadly, not enough Intimidates to clean up my hand, which was the only slight caveat. If it's not a big turn, it's just a 6 damage again. But again, another Trounce. This wasn't even the only one. Same effect though. But I've sideboarded Miller's Grindstone for Bravo, and it doesn't sound like a great idea, but here's why.
Block 3, taking 1. Clash.
Oh, 9.
Oh, that hurts.
So yeah,
That's gone.
Bye-bye, Blood Rush Bellow. Managed to discard Blood Rush Bellow, which is a big thing for Rhinar, and there was not a whole lot left after that, as I very much hit a Crippling Crush, taking Bass's Rhinar down from 10 to 2 as the no equipment block. But overall, of course, no surprise, my deck had little to no heavy hitters stuff. There's literally zero surprise there. That's completely expected. But Bass, on his Rhinar, got a fair amount of worth out of heavy hitters. It would show off better in a constructed game. We chose Blitz purely for the time aspect, not for showing it off better. But especially creating the tokens was very useful for Bass's Rhinar. But sadly, I won the second game as well, after bringing it back from 4 health with Bass on 10, with a dominated Crippling Crush followed by a dominated Buckling Blow. And those were the games.
So I think those were some very interesting games all in all. I think we can both agree that the pre-heavy hitters game was pretty heavy leaning me. Granted, that's fair. I spent a lot more money on my deck than you have at this point.
Yeah.
Or at that point, I should say. Not anymore.
That's one thing that's very important to note. I probably shouldn't have, because it does obscure the results a little bit. But in the time of filming the first Blitz game and the second, I spent a lot of money on new cards that aren't from heavy hitters and made a lot of adjustments to my Bravo.
A new card.
Was it? I've bought a few more since then. I've got Buckle, I've gotten...
Oh, you've gotten more than just the Starstruck you told me about.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem. We don't communicate properly.
Yeah, a bit of cheating, what can I say?
Oh.
Gets the job done.
But I think this is a good set to exemplify how those changes, even with some of the older cards, like Starstruck, like Buckle, still help out.
They're still massively important. I did upgrades to my Bravo, but very little of it was from heavy hitters. You did a lot of upgrades to Rhinar, but
From
with heavy hitters.
Not a lot, but enough to make a notable change. A lot to make him a lot more consistent, I think is what's important.
And I think it's important to note that it's not a bad thing that Bravo didn't get boost. He's already a very good hero.
He's been in the meta since the get-go.
Exactly. I don't think he needed it, per se.
There's always been 1 or 2 games where Bravo just eats everyone alive, 1 or 2 where he's sort of like, not the best pick. And then there's those 1 or 2 games where he just is good, no matter what. Sorry, 1 or 2. Every game where he's not a bad pick.
There's very rarely a game he's a bad pick, and I think that just shows. But that goes through what we thought of heavy hitters. TLDR, should you open it? I don't know. What does your deck need? It's as simple as, if we're talking simplest thing, someone like KO or Rhinar or someone in the set, maybe a few others.
Definitely should open it if you're in the set, I think.
Definitely should open it in the set. If your hero isn't in the set, if it's like, for example, Bravo or Yoji or Volta or Dorinthia.
Some of the Warriors. If it's Levia has gotten a good bump from this set with Apex Bonebreaker and No Fear and stuff, but there is no necessity, I think, for Levia. It's important to know.
And so basically, if your hero isn't in the set, it's as simple as go through the card galleries and see how much there is and how good it is. Because honestly, you might just be better off buying singles if there's just not much from the set you want.
You're always better off buying singles.
Oh, okay, touche. But that was our experience with heavy hitters and our opinions on the set. I really hope you enjoyed the video. We're a small content creator, so help out a ton. And yeah.
I think that's it. I think it'd be awesome if everyone could subscribe, hit the like button, comment, just boost us up a little bit. Who knows? Maybe you'll gain an action.
Yeah. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
See yous.